Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Darkstone Dossiers with your host, Anthony Darkstone.
Buonasera, buenas noches, buon noite, and a very good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're watching this on the planet. Why am I using all these languages? It's because we do have people from all over the world who not only attend these shows, but are actually members of the Society of American Magicians. And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to be an American to be a member of the Society of American Magicians. So it just seems a nice way of greeting a few people in a few different languages. And while we're in the subject of greeting, I would like very, very much, in fact, to acknowledge the presence of a fine gentleman that I've known for many, many years, who is very fondly thought of by many people in England, who was instrumental in many major stars getting their start, including my son as well. And this gentleman is an MIMC with a gold star at the Magic Circle, and I am personally delighted to welcome him, and that is Mr. Keith Churcher. So I'm very, very glad to have him here. Also, it would be remiss of me if I didn't acknowledge members of our International Assembly, such as Elmo Huvila from Finland, Donna Horn, and Harriet Jacobson, of course, and a number of people from our Assembly. Nice to see a wonderful gentleman also from Canada, Ariel Freilich. And Canada is where my guest comes from, who is a member of the SAM and the International Assembly. See, he's not an American. And I will also introduce you to three of our officers for the SAM, and one of them is also Canadian. So there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get on with the show proper, let me just very quickly introduce you to most illustrious Dr. Joel Zaritsky, who is the president of the Society of American Magicians, who would want to say a few words of welcome, I'm sure.
Hey, everybody. I'm so happy you're here at a Saturday afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just doing stuff backstage here, so I'm just hanging out, enjoying the show like you all. So thanks for being here.
I would also like to ask our president-elect of the SAM, Mr. Tom Gentile, to also say a few words of welcome, if you'd be so kind, Tom.
I want to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon. It's a wonderful way to spend some time in a great hobby with great people and see great talent.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. President-elect Tom Gentile. I would now like to move very quickly to another Canadian gentleman who happens to be also a member of our International Assembly and a few other assemblies in the SAM, and he's from Canada, and he is our first vice president. So, Mr. Rod Chow.
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, everyone. And like to give a welcome from Canada, and really great to see a fellow Canadian, my friend, Dr. Mike Likey, being featured on this program. It's going to be very exciting. And also I want to wish all of you a happy Chinese New Year of the Ox, which is this weekend. Happy Valentine's Day this weekend. And in Canada, we also have a family day. So it's actually a long weekend for us. On Monday is family day. So happy long weekend from Canada.
Thank you very much, Rod. I'm a little bit saddened that you haven't brought red envelopes for everybody. No, Rod is a very cool guy.
Yeah, married for that. You have to be young and unmarried, and you'll get it.
He really is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've made the introductions, all remains to tell you is that towards the end of the show, we have a meet and greet, which most illustrious, which is how we address our president, by the way, for those of you who don't know, calls it schmooze and something. I just call it meet and greet. There it is. He's got it up on the screen. Snooze and smooze. Yeah, then we just chat. We open up the chat and everybody talks to the guests and hopefully to each other. And, you know, that's really what it's all about. It's just fun. It's just friendly. So without much further ado, or as my friend Scott Wells often says, we need more ado. Let me introduce you very briefly to my guest. But before we go to him, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He is, as I've mentioned already, from Canada. He is a member of the SAM International Assembly. He is an author. He has 3 doctorates. I'm not sure I know a couple of magicians who have doctorates in different things, but he actually has 3, which I'm sure he'll be telling us about in a little while. He's written some books, and he has a wealth of experience in producing and directing his own shows. He also actually continues to do that during this lockdown phase by interviewing various magicians from around the world. But we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, as is customary on this show, we always run a little clip of just a small snippet of what the guest has done by the way of performance. This particular performance I like personally. Let me explain. Michael is a member of the SAM and the IBM, and he's always wanted to join the Magic Circle, which we spoke about. And both myself and most illustrious Dr. Joel Zawitsky sponsored him. And obviously, he went through the stages and phases, and the last one was for him to perform, as everybody has to, an examination to be given an MMC, which is member of the Magic Circle, which those of you who are members of the Magic Circle, like myself and Joel and Rod, will know a little bit more about that. So I thought it would be only fitting that we show you a little clip of Michael's skills as a performer and what got him a glowing pass mark at the Magic Circle. So when we're ready, let's just run a little clip of Michael. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to my guest, Dr. Michael Magic Mike Likey. Hello, Michael.
How are you, Anthony?
I'm really, really, really good. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this because some of the things we're going to talk about are really dear to my heart, both personally and professionally. So it's great to have you here. Michael, let's just start. I know a lot of people with doctorates, but you have 3. Tell everybody a little bit about your 3 doctorates, how they arrived, what they're in, and how that pertains to your magic, if you would, please.
Essentially, they're all in metaphysics. I achieved them mostly through the University of Sedona in the US. And I wasn't satisfied to just earn the one. It took me a couple of years to earn the one. The first one was a Doctor of Divinity, which enabled me to hold Sunday morning meetings, non-denominational. And I wasn't content enough with that. I was content enough to see progress in people coming to the Sunday morning meetings, and they had issues and whatever. And I was also a clinical hypnotherapist at the time, so we would do stuff in the meetings as well. So I approached the university for another doctorate, which essentially is in mystical research, and did a study of hundreds of people in the meditative state. I wanted to see a correlation between meditation and self-hypnosis, if you will, and achieved that after a couple of years. And then went for the hardest one. It was the most gratifying one, a Doctor of Theocentric Psychology. And that was hard. That was 5 volumes of 25 chapters, each book this thick. And I'm most proud of that as far as scholastic achievements are concerned, because it sort of brought everything together, which actually we're going to chat about shortly, I'm sure. That of some sort of, not divine being, because that reeks of religion, which I'm not necessarily into, more spirituality, that non-physical thing that brings us all together, that brings, if you will, the universe together, and the real magic of life, which I believe I rediscovered this year while going into my Magic Circle exam. That's a whole journey in itself, and hopefully we'll chat about that. I believe I rediscovered the meaning, for me anyway, because it's different for everybody, what true joy is, what true magic, if you will, is in life.
You're right. It's not just in the performance, although that gives us it's, if you like, the mindset of what makes us an average, slightly higher than average, good, or a great magician. I mean, everybody slots themselves wherever they wish. This word metaphysics sometimes has a kind of connotation that people go, voodoo and dark arts. Well, it can be, but I don't think that's what you and I refer to, or indeed Jeff McBride, when he talks about metaphysics, when he talks about sorcery and the need to understand that before you can convey, for want of a better word, the energy of performance. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
Well, in my definition, and probably our definition of metaphysics, meta meaning more than the physical. So it applies to anything that other than or in addition to the physical. And it all boils down to energy. And we either feel good or we feel bad or we feel whatever in between. And for me, tying together a little bit metaphysics with magic, performance magic as opposed to ritual magic, which is a whole other thing. It's the excitement, it's the joy. For me as a child, it was watching Disney cartoons and Saturday morning cartoons and drawing. I was also an artist, professional cartoonist, and animator for many years. So that brought joy and excitement, if you will. It sort of raised my energy to more than joy. I felt the feeling of being ecstatic, if you will. So for me, the term metaphysics does not necessarily include the esoteric forms of divination and all that sort of thing, which one can include in all that. It's more than the physical. It's to do with energy. And that led me into, I worked for a number of years for a few New Age shops in Vancouver, Canada area. and discovered a lot of not such great things going on there, which is why I belong to the Paranormal Investigative Committee of the SAM. But I did find some truths in there, some quote unquote legitimate things, again, to do with energy and a thing called Reiki. This is actually how I got into martial arts, if you will. And Reiki is the Japanese term. Ling Qi is the Chinese term. And there's a theory, which actually I believe has proven to be true. If you're into martial arts, in my opinion, more than 20 years, your Ling Qi comes out. It gets developed. In New Age, they call it Reiki. It's also a legitimate Japanese word, and you become a healer of sorts. Now, I don't believe that anyone can heal anyone else. Perhaps we can touch something within them. The healing properties contained within everybody. So perhaps through performance of magic or watching a play, we're moved either joyously or emotionally in some way, and that creates a catalyst for healing. Much the same with Reiki and Ling Qi. And then I discovered rather than the New Age correlation, I did 3 years of research because I did not like the New Age correlation to Reiki. I believed there was something more. I read all the stories about Reiki, and I just didn't sit right with me. And I found the origins. I even went to Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, all this sort of thing. And I found the answer in Taoism, or Taoism, if you will. And those philosophies, not even so much Buddhism, but Taoism. People still believe, New Agers still believe there's a correlation between Buddhism and Reiki. There really isn't. It's more Taoism. And in Taoism, that opens up a whole door for growth energetically, physically, emotionally, by doing the exercises, Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, or Gong Fu, if you will. That will increase your emotional, physical stability, balance, and it's a whole world. And from that was born the energies of Ling Qi, or Reiki, if you will, in the Japanese.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I have spoken about this several times in the past, and this is why I said I would love to talk about this on the show, because those of us who are martial artists or Taoist spelled T-A-O, but pronounced the Tao, understand these things. And I felt maybe perhaps some of the audience might like to just think about this and maybe be a little bit stimulated. We hear a lot about scripting, we hear a lot about performance techniques, and why not? These, I think, as you and I have spoken several times, are incorporating the performance techniques. As you mentioned, Chinese Qi, Japanese Ki, and of course, in ancient Sanskrit and in the Hindu and yogis, etc., it's prana. There's this kind of internal energy. And you jog my memory on something that dear John Rockebarmer once said. I was writing an article about him, and he said, look, the whole purpose of magic, and I didn't say this, he did, the whole purpose of magic is to take this energy, this love that you feel, and convey that to whoever's watching you, be it, in a television studio or a 3,000-seated theater, or even one-to-one, or a close-up table, or a restaurant table. And that struck me, and I thought, wow, you've summarized all of what we as performers should do. Now, I know you've written a book about that. You very kindly asked me to put a few words together as the foreword, which when I read the book, I thought, wow, how on earth do I do this? Because it's really quite staggering. And we'll get to that in a little bit time. But what I want to do is just touch, if I may, a bit on your history. Like all of us, at one time, we were young men. And I think we have a picture of you as a young Michael.
Uh-oh.
There you are.
Uh-oh.
Didn't we all do that? But you know what? It was right at the time. We had the long hair. I've grown mine since, as you can see. But we've had the long hair, and we did all that because those were the times. People who are of our age and maybe slightly older or slightly younger would get that. 60s and 70s, and some of the younger folks kind of go, yeah, I kind of saw that, and I saw my grandfather or my dad doing that, so that's fine. But that was the embryo, if you like, that developed, because that embryo went on to run magic shops, run workshops, give lectures. I lost track of all the television shows that you've produced and done. and the characters that you played. So fill us all in on some of those and what were they called? I think one was Castle of Magic. Am I right?
Magic Mike's Castle. A lot of
Magic
folks.
Mike's Castle. I think we have a still of that someplace.
Uh-oh.
I'm almost sure we do. Yes, yes. That most illustrious will pull that up. I think there we are. Yes.
That's a
You will be-
current. That's
You
within
obviously
the-
had a hair. You obviously had a haircut since that first picture. So there
Right.
you are. What was Castle of Mysteries? And then you did kids shows and did share with us some of that joy and the excitement of
I
putting
will.
this together.
I will. The previous photo that you showed, the costume, if you will, was inspired by a series in England called Robin of Sherwood, starring Michael Praed. There's a picture of 1990, circa 1990, my TV show Backstage. And the same sort of costume was inspired by this sort of pagan Robin Hood that was depicted in the series. It aired in Canada on CBC as Robin Hood. And something about it touched something within me. Up until that point, I was performing with a tuxedo and a red or black bow tie and kind of the cliche stereotypical magician. And then as soon as I began feeling this TV series with music by Clannad, an Irish group, I believe they're still around. One of the sisters is Enya. And it moved something within me. And that's all I can say. I started to grow my hair longer like Michael Praed. I sewed myself a costume very similar to Michael Praed's costume. And I was in my power. The first time I brought it out was at a mall show done, I think it was Magic Week, October 31st week, probably 1989. And all the other magicians who were my peers, they looked. They didn't come up to me and comment, but I could see in their faces, who's this freak they're thinking. But me, in my head, I'm being me. I'm powerful. I feel so good. And it's the first time I actually used music for 3 tricks. I always used music for 1 trick, and it was Clannad. It was a mystical kind of thing. And that show went on to become Magic Mike's Castle. Previous to that, I was doing a show for 3 years called Kitty Cabaret, where I was like a ringmaster kind of magician. My TV shows always reflected who I am or was at the time, or who I believed I am or was. So Magic Mike's Castle, in my opinion, hopefully in the opinion of a lot of people 40, 50 plus, will agree they loved it. I still get comments when I go to book signings back in Winnipeg, Canada, from people who attend. They go, "You're Magic Mike. I remember that guy, blah, blah, blah." And that means a lot to me. It was a mirror of one of my facets, one of the aspects of who I am. The show right after that, a few years later, which ran for another couple of years, Magic Mike and Company. And I was trying to essentially be another magician. I wasn't being myself. Fortunately, things were wrapping up anyway. It lasted 2, maybe 3 seasons. But I dressed in regular clothing that was kind of popular at the time. And I didn't feel like it was a success. I had cut my hair. People liked it. But for me, I wasn't being me totally. So was it art imitating life, life imitating art? I don't know. But that's where I latched onto the whole mystical thing. I'd been meditating already for a number of years. So I was kind of in a groove, if you will, of something greater. And I would always sit in my car and meditate right before doing a series of live shows. My agents were very kind to me. They'd book me 3, 4 shows a day on Saturdays and Sundays. So I had to rejuvenate. I had to get my energy back. So I'd sit in the car. I'd make sure I'm there 10 minutes before to allow some time to set up and meditate. I'd feel very grounded. I'd go in there, set up, do my show, give it my best, pack everything up, run back to the car, and sit and meditate, focus so I could drive properly to the next gig. So meditation had always been and still is a big part of my life for essentially grounding myself. We can get all esoteric and say, oh, we experienced the divine during that. And for many, that's valid. That's what they experience. I sort of experienced something like that. but it's very subjective. What is the divine? Is the divine light? Is the divine music? What is the divine? Go to Sanskrit and look it up and start to research.
Absolutely, because as you say, some people have this feeling that, if you've got to meditate, it's something like the Maharishi and you sit there chanting Om, and that's cool if that's your thing. But in terms of performance, and again, I have to say you and I kind of click because we are so into all of that, shall we say. We have rituals. I have a ritual. I have, put my pants on, then my boots, and then I'll do some Tai Chi movements in a quiet corner. Then, the shirt goes on and the makeup and, jacket and all that kind of stuff. So I get where you're coming from. Is this for everybody? I would like to say, oh my gosh, yes, I hope it is. Whatever it may be. It may be some, as you were saying, it could be music. Someone's just putting on, putting some earbuds on and listening to some music. I know my son and indeed several other people, that's exactly what they would do. They would put this on and, it was blasting music. That was their meditation, if you like, getting into character. I think we have a picture of you here, which I'm quite fond of because it, in many ways, as a visual, illustrates quite a lot of what you were saying. And if people look very closely at that for a few seconds, they'll understand. This is you with the 7 of Hearts. I particularly wanted that in. There it is. Yeah, we'll bring it up on the screen. Yeah. There's something about that, I think, which encapsulates everything that you were just talking about. In case people have missed it, let me just draw attention to it. There's a sword. And it's not just any sword. The colors of your vest, waistcoat, your cravat, the expression on your face, that stained glass window in the back, all of that kind of brings together, for want of a hackneyed expression, I suppose, a kind of element of wonder. And this is what we're giving our audiences, would you say?
Absolutely. It's all about wonder. And this is one of the aspects that I rediscovered this year, believe it or not, after more than 40 years of performance. I had it as a kid, that wonder, that excitement. I had it when I was performing in the 80s and 90s, sort of my peak, if you will, on television live shows. And then, I don't know, it's like there was this plateau. And I became too serious. Perhaps it was when I was doing my studies and my practice, if you will. And I sort of lost that. You never really lose that, but where was that spark, that joy, if you will? And I began to rediscover it after I'd gotten all my degrees about 6-7 years ago, when I full-time got back into magic consciously. Mm-hmm. And in this last year or so, when I rejoined all the magic groups and more, and started buying, it was like a whole new world as far as the magic world is concerned. Different kinds of dealers, different kinds of selling tricks. And I don't want to get into that at this moment, but I'd rather get into the joy and the excitement and that energy of wonder. Yes. Because that, to me, is truly what life is. We all have our ups and downs, our apparent ups and downs in this lifetime. And what we can judgmentally say is tragedy or joy. And really, it's our perspective. Let's say someone close to us has passed away. Well, we can perceive that as loss, as tragedy, as, oh my goodness, I've got the sense of loss. Well, it all becomes about yourself and how you're emotionally dealing or not dealing with it. Or you can shift that. It's all about attitude, and shift that to something positive, like, oh, good, for lack of a better term, they've transitioned into something else or better. Who knows what? We don't really know. We think we know, but we don't really know. And that's part of the excitement and mystery of this life, I believe. So we can turn tragedy, sadness to joy, that ever-present joy and excitement by tapping into meditation, by tapping into drawing, art, music, any of the creative endeavors. I believe a lot of people would say, well, that's source, if you will. I ascribe to that. I believe that a great way to describe source is creation, is creativity, because there it is. There's that spark that made something, that spark that drew something, that spark that played music, that spark that did magic on stage and saw kids
Yeah.
smile, laugh.
Yeah.
You know, I'm briefly going to do a very related story to when I did a children's hospital out here, if I can keep it together. So at the time, I was always doing sponge balls as part of my little routine. There was a little boy in bed, all wired up. And I did my usual routine. He held the ball, it vanished, it reappeared, it transformed. And he laughed and he smiled, as was usually the case. It's something I took for granted. Later, one of the nurses came up to me and said, "This is really hard. He hasn't smiled in 6 months. It's the first time he's smiled." So
That's magic. I may have mentioned it before, but it's worth mentioning again, because I remember one time some years back, it was Dan Garrett, myself, Dan Harlan, and Simon Lovell. You know, you hang out and you have a meal afterwards and all that kind of thing. And just very briefly, you just jog my memory on this. It's a story that Simon Lovell told. If you can fast forward, there he is being moved out of somewhere in Bosnia or Herzegovina, wherever that was some years ago. Right, it's all changed now, different countries, names, etc. And they threw them all on a truck with some kids. He found out later that these kids were traumatized and they were orphaned. And they were like 8, 10, maybe the oldest was about 12. You know, bumping flatbed truck, trying to get them to safety with Simon and a few other UN people or whatever. And he just said that he just picked up a pebble, a stone, which is lying in a flatbed truck, like you do, you know, and he just did that and disappeared. And one little fella apparently just burst out laughing. He found out later from the lady who was in charge of all these children. Now, this boy was so traumatized from the war and watching his parents being bombed out and etc., had not spoken or said a single word to anybody for X months. I have no idea how long. So there is that side of what we do, and very often we, I think all of us, are never always fully aware of the effect that we have. I'm going to embarrass him like hell by bringing up his name. I know he's here with us, and I acknowledged him, and that's dear Keith Churcher, a good friend of mine from England. They did a huge tribute for him at the Magic Circle. When I say huge, you know, star-studded, and awarded him an MIMC and Gold Star, etc. And he had no idea of the effect he'd had on a lot of these young guys that had gone on to become TV stars and superstars and all that kind of thing. So it's that giving and it's that sharing. And I hope, and I know you agree with me on this, I really know that you do, that, you know, that is part of the magic. It's not just disappearing a sponge ball or sawing a lady in half. That there is that side, and that comes from that energy we spoke about. And speaking of energy, I know, in fact, that you've done a few performances which include the SAM. One was for our resourceress Sarah Cranston up in New York, which was a virtual show, and that you did a few months ago. But prior to that, I had put a show that I'd spoken with Most Illustrious and decided, hey, let's just do a gala show. And it's on the showcase, which Most Illustrious will put in the chat. It was the first ever gala show. And I remember coming to you and saying, you know, would you be kind enough to take part? And without hesitancy, you went, yes, can I help? And I said, well, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I need a poster. And you went, I can do that. And I said, well, we'll need a promo video. And you went, I can do that. And there you were. You just jumped in and it was all there and you took part of this performance. And we'll put up a little thank you that you got from the president. There it is.
Oh, that was so special. So
signed
special.
by Dr. Joel Batman Zawitsky. Yes? I mean, it
So
is special. It is special. Yeah, that's amazing. And this is the caring, because I had not asked him to do this as the producer of the show. He, as the president, just took it upon himself to send one of these to every performer.
that meant
That's
so much.
the caring that I want to bring the message across today of what we're about, what the SAM is about, the caring people in the SAM. You know what? I'm going to show a little clip of you not all your performance in the gala show or the gala show, whichever way you want to pronounce it. I guess we'll have to pronounce it gala tomorrow night, but we'll talk about that another time. But just bring up a little clip of something that you did on it, which was, I thought was just amazing. You did a lot of stuff, but this I kind of liked very much. So we thought, let's just run it. Wow. Wow. Love it. 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 But I also wanted to play that clip, not just to show people a little bit of what you did, but I think that also encapsulates everything from character, visual, how you were dressed, framing. It wasn't like everywhere jumping around. It was framed. It was always there. It was great effect, obviously. I don't do it, but great effect. And the choice of music, all of these things that come together to make an effect, to make a show. So what are your thought processes? I mean, do you start from, hey, this is what I want to achieve and work backwards, or do you start with an idea and go forwards? How does that all come together? Using, of course, your chi and ki and prana.
Chi ball.
Yeah, exactly. The chi ball. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yes. Yes.
So essentially, it's the concept. It's what do I want to achieve? Now, that particular effect is timeless. It's been around a good long time. And those of us who are historians or love research will know it's not a new effect. And I'd actually forgotten that, and being on the west coast of Canada, Vancouver, BC, very, very world famous magician lived here, and his son is a member of the Society of American Magicians, the local assembly here. It's a Leon Mandrake.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he presented that. I never saw him do it. I have to, unfortunately admit, but I saw Harry Anderson back in the 90s, I believe it was, late 80s, 90s, do it on Johnny Carson. And I loved it, and I was stumped, and I thought, what the heck? He's not, I can't reveal some stuff.
No, you mustn't.
He's not using the usual methodologies to create what you guys just saw right now. And so I had to go research it. It thrilled me. It excited me. I purchased from a couple of magic shops in the States 2 versions of it, and then disassembled everything and made it my own, because each of them had their pros and cons, but it had to be a certain way for me, we'll say mechanically, in order for it to fulfill something. It's all about, you kind of have to put yourself in the audience's eyes.
Yes.
How will it look to your audience, and how will they feel? So you have the physical, you have how will it look, and then you have, well, is it emotive? Where's the emotion coming from? What is it touching off? And that's where I use music. And I believe that's so important. If I can, I use Disney-like music, because they're the masters of emotions going up and down, and they play with your emotions a lot in all of their productions. Of course, we can't, because of copyright reasons, use actual Disney music. So I go on YouTube and find copyright-free music that feels joyous or mysterious or exciting, something that will spur someone, like seeing things through the eyes of a child. And I hope that all of us can get there. Maybe some of us are there already. See things wondrously, as if we're children again. And that's what I hope to, I don't know if I succeeded, hope to create that sense of wonder, that sense of magic, that sense of, wow, this is so cool. How did that happen? Or wow, maybe you're still and you're excited. Everyone expresses emotions differently. They get all animated like I do, or they sit very stoically, but they're very excited as well. So that's the thought process, is what is it going to look like in the audience's eyes physically? Is it miraculous? Is it a visual? Is it a one-off? Is it a story? Lately, in the last year or so, I've been sort of getting into more storytelling with magic, a non-verbal, if you will, script. And secondly, the music for emotion. And hopefully we're left with a good product at the end.
Well, let's face it, Michael, we all get to that stage, some of us sooner than others, when we have to stop doing, it just doesn't look good on an old guy.
Exactly.
I'm being silly to make a serious point that you've raised, and I think it's important if we're talking about performance, where we have to understand the character that we are and our limitations, and then adapt accordingly. You can't go from being the Ringo Kid as John Wayne on Stagecoach to then becoming, a slightly bigger, less leaner gentleman in The Shootist, or a one-eyed Marshal in True Grit. So I'm just using those just to kind of say we have to adapt. You're still essentially John the Duke, but you have to adapt according to, when you get broader and maybe the knees don't move as fast or whatever. And I think that's going to lead me very nicely into, I think, the book. That, in fact, I want really for you to talk about how that came about. We can't possibly put everything in it. I mean, I spent almost an entire night reading it from cover to cover. Boom, everything.
Wow.
Because you very kindly said to me afterwards, well, what do you think of it? And would you write a foreword? And I said, yeah, I will write a foreword, little realizing what I got into. It was fascinating. And I thought, all I can say, I mean, people want to get it and read the foreword, they can. That's not what it's about. It's about you. I happen to think that it's required reading for any magician at whatever level. I mean, that's all I can say. Because
I agree with you. Oh, there's the cover with the foreword.
Yeah, there we are. Some guy called Anthony Darkstone was asked to write the foreword, as I mentioned, so I did. But in the foreword, I'm not going to read it out. I can't get to it. But I'm saying, look, this is required reading, not because, people don't know what to do. There are a lot of books, from Darryl Fritsky and people like that are, for want of a non-sacrilegious term, our Bible, our sacred writings, whatever. No offense meant to anybody. This one is, I think, belongs with that, because you've gone into incredible depth, including photographs of you doing some Tai Chi movements. You explain about the preparation into becoming a performer. And what I liked about it was you understood the concept of being a product. So when a client calls you, that's when the product happens.
Exactly.
That's when the gig begins. It's almost the ending of the gig when you're physically in the studio and television or on a stage, as we've done over the years. It's that first part, the negotiation, how they perceive it, how that happens. And back in the day, well, it wasn't my day anyway, we didn't have websites. We didn't have, it was only relatively later we had a CD or a DVD you could send to someone. So you had to talk to people on the phone. Yeah. You had to convince somebody you were worth, $3,000 or whatever, yes, to be booked. So the book goes into that. What I'd like you to do, in fact, is you're the author and you're a producer and host on many shows, etc., which when people Facebook you and go on to your different Facebook groups, they will see many of the things you do, which I can't possibly cover. But I do want to focus a little bit on the book, and I think kind of lead you into how, why, and what, and how it happened.
Very good. And thank you for those kind words about the book, by the way, both the foreword and your words right now, because personally, I believe I could have gone into more detail. And I was actually quite nervous sending it to you because I thought, oh dear, I could have said this and I could have said that and I could have added this. And, but my wife often says to me, a lot of people just won't get it. You've given them so much even though you think you haven't. So how it came about was just in a couple of months. I can write a 300-page book in a month because I organize my time apparently quite well. This is half of that amount of pages, but it came about as a result of my journey to the magic circle, where I refound, if you will, the magic of life. And then I kind of worked backwards. I kind of traced it to everything we were speaking about today. What are the origins of it? Oh, yes, meditation. Oh, yes, energy. All of this. And I'm going to get a little bit woo-woo. I sort of channel my books for people who get that. They know what I mean. For people that don't get that, it just means, well, there's a flow to it. And I don't know where it comes from, but I just type. I don't even consciously know what I'm typing. I sort of have an agenda day by day, if you will, and it hopefully comes to fruition. And this was as a result of my journey and refining, if you will, the magic of life. And for years, I could not find an intersection between metaphysics and performance magic. I couldn't. I tried working that into my Sunday morning metaphysical meetings as Reverend Dr. Michael. It didn't work. It was all segmented. But this year, very, very special year, on my journey towards the magic circle, what I did was I worked with music first. I knew what effects I was basically going to do.
Right.
That cups and balls was a routine I did all the time in my shows more than 20 years ago. Brought it back out. My cups and balls were not in good shape. I had to buy new cups and balls. Meanwhile, my exam was coming up. So I worked backwards. I looked at music. I said, okay, I know what the visuals are going to be. What is going to be a motive? And essentially, that's what it's all about, is the emotion behind it. And the giving of stuff. If we all only realize we're only here on this earth to give, that's all. And the receiving just comes naturally. It's sort of like, again, I don't want to get too metaphysical, but Einstein said, as far as energy is concerned, whatever you put out comes back in a big circle. Now that's kind of Taoist as well. That's
very much so.
Right? And
Very
that's
much so. Yeah.
absolutely true. When you don't think of yourself, except to maybe do the best you can do and then just give it, it sort of works. So the journey towards the book is a journey to hopefully help others to find some sort of meaning in their performance art, be it magic, be it juggling, be it clowning, be it stage acting, and creating that character. I included in the book my book on creating your own character because I thought, oh, I can't ignore this. It sort of segued into that. So they're kind of getting two books in one, if you will. And the product, if you will, that's on stage should be you, should be a mirror, either literally or figuratively, of who you really are inside. Then the audience will be moved. They'll get you. And you're a winner already. I no longer choose to run out on stage and jump about like I used to, even as recent as a couple of years ago. There's more a stoicness and a giving of energy that's returned in many different ways. And I hope that people that read the book will discover that. I'm pretty sure they'll get quite a few things out of that book.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure of that, because you reminded me of a wonderful quote, because you and I, as you know, we have spoken about these topics long into the night, as it were. And, you know, I'm very much into a lot of this, and I think it has made me the performer that I am today. And of course, you know, with dear people like dear Eugene, who times we hung out, I never actually talked magic effects with him. We would talk about metaphysics and other things. You know, may his memory be a blessing. Now there was a man, I think, you know, one could sit at his feet literally and just listen. And if you were open to learning, there was so much you could absorb, because he never taught anything. He just gave you things and you choose like a sponge to absorb it and then make it your own, or ignore them at your peril. So yeah, basically, in fact, I think your book encapsulates a lot of that, and it's certainly stimulating, because some of the fun posts that I put up, I said, who are all these people? What are they going to do coming to the show? Those people were you and I in different characters. And, I threw a Yoda in as well, because I wanted subtly to people to understand that a Yoda is not actually teaching you anything. He's holding up a sign. He's not an instructor. He's not a teacher. He's holding up a sign. And these are all true Taoist masters. Yes, from anyone who's read Lao Tzu will know this, that you discover, not interpret, but discover. He's not actually teaching you anything. So yeah, I think now, how do people get a copy of this book, Michael? Is it hardback? You've got it on Amazon? How do they go about this?
Essentially, it's through Amazon. Because we rewrote it, correcting some things. I literally gave in the corrected version just before we went to air today. So give it a couple of days. I mean, you could purchase it right now from Amazon, but I'd rather you wait till about Tuesday. This will air at all different times, but a few days from when you watch this, go to Amazon, look me up. Michael Likey, not Dr. Michael, not Magic Mike. You might find me under Magic Mike, or Google the title, or type in the title in the Amazon page, if you will, and you'll find it.
The title is
Metaphysics, Mysticism, and Performance Magic. It's also on my website.
Okay, and people can contact you on Facebook, I imagine. Yes.
Facebook is the easiest. I'm all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all social media.
All social media, yeah. Okay. Well, it's not essentially a plug for the book. Well, it is in some ways, because I think it contains such a wealth of information. And, if you're like me and into that, you go, oh, yeah, I want it all. This is great, all of it. And then there are people who will pick and choose bits of it.
Yes.
Because what I liked about the book is it's not authoritative. It's stimulating. It's making people think. It's not saying this is it, this is rigid, this is how it should be done. It's stimulating them to say, that's interesting. Like the way, Vernon used to do. He would stand there and go, well, what if you looked that way and held the ring in this hand?
Very good.
He never said, look that way and hold the ring and, tuck your stomach in. He kind of went, what if you, and that I think is the true mentor or whatever. And I think probably finish in terms of character from the quote that I've used a lot, and I probably will again, from Kirk Douglas, who said, look, it's not my job to convince myself I am Spartacus. It's my job to convince the audience that I'm Spartacus. Now, how apt is that for a magician? Yes.
Absolutely.
On that note, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We've come to our good hour and left out tons of your life, which people can catch up on if they befriend you. And I would heartily recommend that they do, because you are a fascinating character and a really hell of a nice guy. There, I've said it publicly now. No, I do not want anything for it. It's true. It's true. It is true. And people who've interacted with you and others in our International Assembly will know that. And speaking of the International Assembly, if there's anybody on here who would say, oh, that sounds interesting, I'd like to be a member of the SAM, fine. Just go to www, of course, magicsam.com. You'll see a gray button there underneath the photographs of Max Maven, David Copperfield, Matt King, etc. Yes, they are all members of the SAM. That's why their pictures are there. So you'll be in good company. And that gray button says International Assembly. And if you just push it, there's a whole load of information there, right down to photographs, which contains yours as well, and indeed dear Rod Chow and a few other people. Harriet Jacobson is here, and I've just said to my dear friend Keith Churcher, who's here today, great legend in magic and helping people, that I invited him to become an honorary member. That will good, because he has a lot of people that he will talk to about the assembly, I'm sure. So okie dokie. That brings us, I think, neatly to a close. All remains for me is to say thank you very, very much, as always, to most illustrious Dr. Joel Zawitsky. Thank you very much to all our International Assembly members, our President-elect, Tom Gentile, and of course our first VP, Rod Chow. And I think there is somebody I should say a huge thank you to, and that'd be you, Michael. Thank you so
for
much.
honoring me.
Not at all. Thank you for taking the time. I believe the hand clap in Zoom, I've been taught, is this. So I think everybody's going to be doing that for you, I hope.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming and sharing, just a tiny fraction of Dr. Magic Mike Likey. I think we'll just open up the chat and schmooze a little bit, as Most Illustrious calls it, and just, chat to each other, and people maybe want to ask you some questions and so on. So my thanks to all involved. Thank you all for attending. So for me, thank you so much to all. And I think now I will turn it over to Dr. Joel, and he will open up the chat and the microphones.
And you can unmute yourself. It's time for the schmooze and mingle.
I have a question here for Batman. Over in chat, we've only got 2 people we can address. That would be you and Brett Soul. If you could open that up so that everybody we can get a chat in there to everyone.
That's what we're doing now. Getting it all open for you. Not a problem.
Very good, Joel. Thank you.
Quick question, Magic Mike.
Yes, sir.
At my age, you get a lot of cross communication. Are you a quick draw artist?
I am. I don't know how you knew that, but I am a caricature artist by trade and a graphic designer by trade.
All right.
Well, I'm not sure what Tom meant.
But not a
drawing.
6-gun, but not a
Okay.
pistol quick draw.
Yes, absolutely. How did you know?
I didn't you do another lecture or talk about 6 months ago, and you exhibited a quick draw?
No, that wasn't me. I wish it was, but it wasn't.
I think Tom, we were going to do. I know what it was. It was when I did the Darkstone dossiers with you, with Rod and Joel, and then we came on, and I think I put one of these on and put my rig on and show you guys some fast drawing.
You did that too.
Yeah.
But there was someone else that did a quick.
Okay.
Are you in the Guinness Book of World Records, Tony?
No, sir. No.
Okay,
I ain't that good.
This gentleman is a magician. I don't know. Maybe it's the other organization's series, but I swear he said he's in the Guinness Book of World Records for the quick draw, and then I saw you, Anthony, do it, and then I thought Magic Mike was. So you guys will be my age.
Nobody's your age, Tom. You're forever 23.
You're gonna have a duel with Batman over there now.
Yeah, I know. Hey, we're
getting ready for tomorrow night in Texas.
We're getting ready. We're getting ready for tomorrow.
We're getting ready for tomorrow, Texas.
And I'll tell you what, man.
Now you got him going.
Oh, we'll get a bang out of this.
Getting ready for Texas tomorrow. How does this work? I got to take it off. Okay, yeah. I'll tell you, man, you go to the International Assembly page or Scott Wells's page and the links and you got to register. If you don't register, you can't get there. Okay. They won't let you in. Don't register. I tell you, this is going to be so much friggin' fun. It's unbelievable. But yeah, that's what you saw, Tom. That you saw my rig. Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. My rig in Winchester and all that stuff. Oh gosh, should I be doing that on Zoom?
Is that a 44?
No, sir. That's a 45 double action.
45. Wow.
Double action. Yeah.
And what's yours?
Well, Joel's got a nice one. That's a Navy Colt, right?
44.
Yeah, he's got a Navy Colt. Yeah.
Is that a 44, Joel?
Yeah, that's right. It's from the movie The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Right, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Have you fired it?
Replicated.
Which one are you, Joel? The good, the bad? Well, I'm not going to go there.
But
a little bit of all three.
Those are operable.
Yeah.
Mostly the ugly.
If we're going to be doing this, guys, and I've got my peacemaker with me.
There you
go. You're here.
I'm
Paul
here.
Abbey. Oh, for goodness sakes. Yeah. Oh, let me take this hat band off.
Sorry, I got a red eye into LAX and it was late.
Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, now that we're in the chat and informal and we're just hanging out, Paul. Oh, hey, Brett's got his hat too.
This hat, I bought this hat in Tombstone, Arizona.
Well, this one, in fact, I like, and I'll tell you for why. It's the only one that I've got like about 8 of them, and this is the only one that fits over the headphones. And guess what? When I travel, I can do that.
Oh, that's great.
And it
Oh,
just
that's cool.
Mine's the Stetson. I can do the same thing. It's crushable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I got one of those, man. I'll tell you, when it's crushable and it's like 16 hours on a plane and you
Throw it in your luggage. You're good
baggage,
to go.
you're
yeah.
spending time with the kettle straightening, the steam, the broom. This thing is just so cool. It's just easy. But listen, I know, I know you guys want to talk and I don't want to hog it all, but yeah, but I just got to introduce my very, very, very good pal, also from England, who is AIMC with the Silver Star, like myself at the Magic Circle, and we have some cool videos of us in Chinatown, London. And Paul is Sifu, which is a Chinese word for like teacher, master, that sort of thing. And I particularly wanted Paul to be here because we were talking about those things. So, Paul, say a few words about your Tai Chi and how it's helped your life and your magic and things like that. I think folks would like to.
Oh well, this is really cool, and thank you, Mr. Likey, for your chat. I'm sorry I was a little bit late, but things that you were saying about what you do in your performance are so true. I've actually used a lot of my Tai Chi influence in with my own act. It's strangely the same as Jeff McBride when I was talking to him. It's just basically the movements. You got these lovely fluid movements that you use. So when I'm using like a coin move and a vanish, I use the same movements. My stage movements are very similar. But I've been doing Tai Chi for about 30 odd years. And I kind of turned to that because I had a lot of injuries. I'd done a lot of heavy duty martial arts and really kind of wrecked my knees and stuff. And Tai Chi actually saved my knee for an operation. Now I'm working on my arthritic hip.
No doubt you'll fix it, or Tai Chi will fix that. I had the same problem with a knee, which was virtually destroyed. It took me a couple of years using Tai Chi and Ling Chi and Reiki, and it's healed.
Well, I can absolutely go along with that, guys. Well, Paul, you know that, right? Okay, you know that about all the things from martial arts and the Tai Chi and the Tao, etc. Yeah. Well, Joel also knows. I mean, there was one show I had to like tank up with some tablets because my back had gone, just went. That was it. There's no time to go and get a massage or anything. Well, actually, plenty of time to get a massage, but I couldn't go out and get one for obvious reasons. So stuff happens. But I kind of like what Walter Blaney says. Die young, as old as possible. That's another one. Blessings to his memory. May his memory be a blessing. Yeah, beautiful man. If you knew him, very honored and humbled and privileged that I did and spent great times with him. But anyway, I love that. Die young. And as performers, whether particularly as a magician, you can be in another performing art, a musician or whatever other performing art. But as a magician, there's something that we're doing, that we're forcing this audience to, oh gosh, I hate this cliche, but there isn't any other way of expressing it, suspend their disbelief, however momentarily. Would you agree with that, Michael?
Absolutely.
And this is where, as Paul was saying, if you're doing a little movement from, doing that, yes, which is kind of interesting, but when you're tight, when you're using your chi or ki and you're reaching up there like this, and then you bring it back to yourself, that enhances something. I mean, this looks okay and it's good, but this, in my humble opinion, is so much better. I mean, obviously, I'm just
that's a classic actor's thing, Anthony. I mean, I'm an actor trained by trade.
I know that, Paul. I know that.
And the thing with Tai Chi is a body discipline. So, I mean, one of the things that my teacher used to say, you move well on stage, but that was because of my martial arts thing. But when I pick a coin out of the air, I see it. I don't just go, oh, there's a coin. I have to see that coin, and I actually focus on that point. Even though there's nothing there to focus on, I'll focus on that point right there, and I'll take that coin, and I'll be watching it all the time. But you've got to have that discipline, because people will grab things. But as you know, Mr. Likey, you'll be reaching with a little bit of finesse, that little tiny thing, because it's only a kind of a thin sliver of metal. So you're not grabbing a stick, you know, you're grabbing a tiny thin little piece of metal and seeing
it's a belief as well. I actually believe, and it's very much akin to what you just said, Paul, is that I see it, I believe it, and therefore the audience will as well. If you believe it, they will as well. That's automatically telegraphed on a non-physical level. And it's like, I actually believe I'm holding a silver coin right now in this hand. It's not a big one, but it's about yay big. I believe it, and I can lay it there. And even part of my hand, I guess you can't see that, part of my hand will even crease up in such a way to hold the weight of it. Subconsciously, I've telegraphed that. So there's a belief involved as well in everything that you're doing magically on stage, except for vanishing the elephant. If you really believe you're vanishing an elephant, better get an elephant first.
Or a large mirror.
Yes.
Okay, there's a technique in improvisational theater that basically addresses the same thing. It's called space objects, giving reality to your space objects. You have to give them weight and size and everything. You have to believe it's there.
Yes.
So yeah, improv can kind of cross over the same thing. That's all.
You're right, Brett, because martial arts training, and I'm not talking about, watching sort of ninja movies and going, yeah, and it's not what it's all about. Because as my Sifu said many, 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 many years ago, oh God, 50 something years ago, when I was in my 20s, why would you want to break a brick? A brick's not going to jump up off the ground and hit you, right? So you need to figure out a way of how to avoid a brick being thrown at you. And it's not always speed. It can be sometimes, that fast. I mean, not bad for an old guy. Yeah, I'm praising myself. But it's not always about that. It's about what you were saying, Michael, that containment of the energies, the release of the energy, and it's bringing it back.
Yes.
I mean, would you and Paul and anyone else who wants to join in on this, by the way, this particular topic, you see, if you take a garden hose, it's fairly limp. There's nothing to it. It's nothing but there. It's just limp. But the moment water goes through it, or a big fire hose, simple garden hose, you try bending it when there's water going through it. That's the chi. That's the energy. So. Absolutely. Yeah, as you were saying, I mean, I know you've gone into this in some detail in your book, and I was fascinated by it. As I said earlier on, I just sat there and I thought, okay, I'll just start this, and then like hours later, I'm like, okay, wait, I need to go to the bathroom, and I'm right back now, and I'm reading it, and it just did. Am I plugging it? Well, yes. Why am I plugging it? Do I want everybody to go? Everybody to go out and buy it? Well, no, that's your problem. I'm plugging it because I think it's something. If you're seriously performing magic, I don't care what you do, if it's just one effect, the book stimulates your thinking as to how you could be doing it. I didn't say should, but how you could.
Can I jump in there, Tony?
Absolutely, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I've got to add to that, because one of the things, because I teach as well.
Yes,
it's like I actually teach in England as well. I run a college up in London for magic, and one of the things I tell my students is, don't stand on the stage or do the close up and entertain people, trying to convince people that you're fantastic and you're great. That's not what it's all about. It's about making them feel that they're being entertained. So it's the same when I'm entertaining. I have exactly the same attitude when I bring people up onto the stage. The most important person on that stage then is the person who's with me, not me. And then that gives me this attitude, which I think is what magic is all about. The same as an actor, you're playing a character. I do everything tongue in cheek, and I just want people to have fun. So that way, if you screw up, and things do screw up, then it's
yeah.
fun. It's. I remember Paul Daniels saying to me, this isn't brain surgery, it's entertainment. And all that stuff kind of connects to my Tai Chi beliefs and feelings and everything that you've been talking about, Mr. Likey. I'm intrigued now. I think I've got to get this book.
Oh, I agree with you 1,000%. It's about them. It's about your audience. And I've used, and I have the same attitude. When I have someone up on stage, be it a grown adult or a child, it's all about them. I'm not there to make fun of them. I'm there to make them feel good and look good, period. I'm the catalyst for that, if you will. And also that helps with nerves. I have someone very close to me who had to give a presentation at school. She was a teaching assistant, and she was so nervous. And I said, well, that's because it's all about you. Make it about them. You love those kids. It's for them. Have the energy, the attitude that you're giving something to them. She wasn't nervous at all when the time came. So it's about giving. And when you have that attitude, if you will, of giving, it's not all about me. I'm not here to pose and do whatever. I'm here to create wonder and touch something within my audience, my assistant, etc. Then you've got it. That's the essence.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. I think this is paramount. And am I going to plug it? Well, in a way, yes. I belong to the Magic Circle, as everybody knows, as does Paul and Michael and Most Illustrious, etc., and the IBM and so on. But this camaraderie, this givingness, is probably more prevalent in the SAM. I mean, I'm going to embarrass you, Paul, a little bit, not too much, because in a conversation with Paul about a week ago, he said to me, "Do you know what? I'm here in England, and I feel so welcome at the SAM. I feel so welcome in the International Assembly. I feel like I'm actually part of something." Am I right, Paul? You actually said that? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how many people out there who are feeling that way? And I think that's because of Most Illustrious, because of President-elect Tom, because of First VP Rod, because of many unsung heroes in the background, Marlene, the secretary at the National Council meetings. And I always praise this lady. I mean, she does an amazing job and helps me with recruiting people in the assembly, and well, not with recruiting, but the paperwork that goes with it, as you all guys know. You get your pins, your certificates, and all the rest of it. And that's Manuel Rodriguez. So there's this whole camaraderie and this nature of giving. You know what? I'm going to be quiet. I've got three experts here about that, which is Most Illustrious, Tom, and Rod. You guys talk about it. Go ahead, talk about this givingness and
The energy.
The energy
all over the place.
Even here.
That's right.
Oh, actually, listen, I'll tell you what, right? Tom spent a fortune mailing this out to me.
Well,
it's just giving. I mean, that's all it is. That's all it is. So
look how many smiles you've had.
But I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. No, Tom, because you three guys, we're informal now. You three guys came on the Darkstone Dossiers, and we talked about the past, the present, and the future. Yeah, and you're kind of very near future. Yes, because you're
very
going to
near
be
future
president in July. Yeah,
it's coming right. It's coming quick.
Yeah, it's coming quick. You want to talk about the giving, and maybe Joel and Rod, please chime in.
This whole year, we have Joel has just brought everybody on this box office routine. Every other Friday, we're cooking, we're learning. There's lectures. We're eating well. The menus are well balanced. We have a lot of fun. It's just we laugh. It's just a friendly atmosphere. We all have a good time. Never. I've been a member 37 years. And this year, I think we are the closest because we've seen everybody 3 and 4 times a week, enjoying magic. Years ago, the National Council got together and see me twice a year. And then whatever happened behind the scenes. Well, behind the scenes are all the Zooming. And we get so much done. We have so much planned. We have so much in store for the members, Friends of Magic. There's a lot coming in for the SAM. Stay tuned.
It's just about communication and camaraderie. But the most important thing is about the members. And Kip, take it away, man.
Connecting.
Thank you. I had a question for Dr. Michael. Oh, did he step away?
I think briefly, yeah.
Oh, okay. I will come back in when Dr. Michael is back. I had a question for him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see his picture.
Anthony,
yes,
you were
sir.
talking about the bricks. It brings up a story as a kid. My friend's father was a mason, and he had pallets of bricks and slate in the backyard. Well, his cousin was taking up karate. And then in one, like a couple of afternoons, we went over the house and his cousin was practicing on all of these bricks in the backyard. Little did we know the father, who was a mason, had a future for those bricks. And he broke like about three pallets of them. He had a great callus, but his uncle was not happy.
I bet. Yeah. But, it's again, there's different views on martial arts. I think if you view it, for want of a better expression, in parenthesis, almost as Michael was saying, like a spiritual exercise, yes, then it becomes easier.
Exactly.
If you're trying to use brute strength, all you're going to do is break your hands.
That's it.
That's it.
He finally did.
That's like a horse. I mean, if you've got a Mustang and you want to put a saddle on him, you got to take your time.
I have a story about that too.
I bet you do. You and I are going to get together. We get a few beers. Hey, speaking of get together, before Kip jumps in with his question, two things.
I got a scoop.
First, okay, Tom, thank you, sir.
Right,
hopefully maybe see you tomorrow.
A lot of fun.
Speaking of tomorrow, I would ask Joel, if he has it, to put up the link where you register for the Houston Association banquet of Magicians banquet tomorrow with Gregory Wilson. Suzanne is going to be my guest on the next Darkstone Dossiers. And God, I keep forgetting his name, guy from Vegas, not Keith West, Fielding West, and Gregory Wilson, people like that. So if you can put that up in chat, you guys might want to make a note of it, go register. That's why we're all fooling around with all this stuff. And I'm thrilled to bits because, it takes me back to my Texas days and hanging out with all these.
I just want to say something before Kip jumps in with his question.
Yes, Ron, please.
Yeah. So I just want to say that this was a great interview, Mike, with Anthony. And the theme of this year is We Are the Energy. And you certainly have the energy, Mike, in more ways than one. That your background even is full of energy. And I noticed throughout the meeting that your hair lights up with the energy of whatever you have in there. And I was really impressed by your performance at the beginning, the MMC award-winning performance. So that was awesome. And that showed a lot of energy as well as the folding table. And your book is about energy. So you really are with the theme of the SAM. So thank you for being here. And then thank you, Anthony, for hosting all these Darkstone dossiers too, because that's something that we never had before. And this is a real benefit for the SAM that we have Anthony here bringing members into the SAM from all over the world. And so, put a nice hand up for Anthony to put on international galas, Darkstone dossiers, and just to make SAM more visible to everyone and invite everyone without any boundaries to come in and join the SAM and experience the energy that the SAM has and that we can offer back to everyone as well. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Again.
Wow, Rod, thank you so much. What can I say? Obviously, Rod's going to become president in 2023, right? Have I got it right? Tom is 21 to 22, and then when do you become president? Right? 22. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, as you can see, right, this is why I want these guys to talk about it. You saw the sincerity in Joel's voice, in Rod's voice, in Tom's voice. How they come forward, and this is contagious, and it, it happens, and it's just, wonderful. Anyway, Kip, you had a question for Dr.
I do. Dr. Michael, in your conversation here today, you were talking about through your life how your character had changed many times. Now, was that just because of you were keeping up with the ages, or did you change the characters on purpose to fill a particular market need? And when you did those character changes, did you change the magic that each character did? Just expound on that a little deeper, if you would.
Excellent question, Kip. Thank you. The answer to that is yes to all of it. When I first started out as a professional, if you want to call it, getting paid to do shows, I was just in my head that stereotypical magician. I had even a black tux and the bow tie and all of that. And I did an awful lot of tricks for the money that I was getting paid. I had 4 tables of things, but I was quite young as well. I even did doves and rabbits and all of that. All the cliche, they're classics, but they're cliche. They're the rings and the die box and just all of that. And then as I gradually matured, if you want to call it maturing in my mid-20s, that's when I kind of keyed into that Robin of Sherwood or Robin Hood series, a mystical version in the mid-80s or so, and it touched something. And so I was really coming from the inside out. I was consciously not trying to fill a commercial need. I had my agents for that. When I first started out, I was knocking on doors. I looked like a regular magician. That's what they were expecting. That's what they got. But by then I'd had a few big agents, and I'm not shy to say this because I'm grateful for it, in Winnipeg, Canada. I'd moved there from Toronto. They just seemed to like me. I can't explain it. It's kind of like whatever I did, they really liked it. And I was grateful for that as well. So I felt like I could do whatever I wanted. That's when I was relaxing more. When you kind of are more relaxed, you're open. And perhaps the real me, if you will, was coming out. I was kind of rebelling back then too. I grew my hair long. I'm kind of a late bloomer. I didn't rebel when many people my age, which is 65, almost 65, began rebelling. I started doing that then, and it's kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to be. So my agents worked with that every time. Every time I kind of shifted. As for the magic, yes, it did shift a bit. I never consciously, until the last 10 years or so, changed my props to fit the theme or the mood of the show. I've got this really gnarly, if you will, wand made out of a branch, an actual branch, which I shellacked, and I attached a new age kind of crystal to it and put gold tape around it. And I seldom use that, but it's there. I used to use it. And so I tried very much. As you know, you can't really just go to a magic shop or order online and get an 1800s looking prop. Lately, I've been sourcing that out because I really love the 1800s. I always did. So I went through a phase where I liked medieval times, medieval days. The props and my costumes more or less reflected that. And now it's 1800s, which I'm really excited about. And it just happens that whole steampunk thing is popular. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I like, coincidentally, Westerns, that 1800s kind of thing. I even had the Colonel Sanders tie and all that as part of my costume as well. And again, my props now are starting to be, I am sourcing stuff out, but not from magic shops, with like little gears and windy things and stuff. And I've got this whole new show during the pandemic that I've been putting together. And hopefully once the pandemic is over, I'll debut live. If anyone out there is interested in having me do a show for free, because I refuse to charge online for my shows. Perhaps that's a mistake. Perhaps someone would like to voice their opinion about that. But I'm really excited. It's going to be gears and things. I don't want to give stuff away. But it's also more me. I'm not going to run around with a mutilated parasol anymore, which was so much a part of my magic tricks. I'm not going to run around with the hoops. Those are all great tricks, but they're not so much me anymore. And the journey to the magic circle helped me see that Anthony was instrumental. I called him one day And I said, oh my God, I'm going to have this exam. And he says to me, what are you going to do? So I described my standard kids show that I've been doing on and off in this version for the last 20 years, 10, 20 years. And he goes, you're bigger than that. You're better than that. Oh, that meant so much. Those simple words helped me to raise myself, such as I am, if you will, to strive for more, to see myself, to have a look at myself and go, hey, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not going to run out and with all this energy. I mean, I could, and then I could die on stage, literally. So it was really Anthony who was the catalyst. I'm gonna thank you specifically for that, for my journey, my growth. There has to be a catalyst for growth, and in that case, it was. Does that help at all, Kip?
Yeah, it does. I might bounce this follow-up off of both you and Anthony, seeing how he helped you. So for instance, like right now in my magic career, I have several personas depending upon the market I'm going to. I've got Kip Sherry. Let's call him the birthday magician. He can also be the corporate magician, the trade show magician. If I'm going to county fairs, I have a character complete with costume, custom props, the whole 9 yards. Cletus Bugfester, he's an old ranch hand magician, rides a stick pony, and this stick pony reads minds, sort of like Dana Daniels' bird does. And that's all set up for the county fair industry, 4-H, FFA audiences. And then I've got a con man character called the Charitable Cheat. And he will go out to fundraisers and nonprofit organizations during their gala events and very proudly will cheat people out of their money. And everything he cheats them out of goes to the nonprofit organization. So it's entertainment and fundraising. So those are 3 of them that I've done. Add Zoom magician to it now after 2020. But the thing that this does is it spreads me a little too thin. And maybe some of the advice Anthony gave you might be able to help me. I find it hard to advance to the next level because I'm so many different characters. Do I need to raise all 3 of them? Do I need to like maybe just focus in and just do one thing, like just purely be a mentalist, or purely be a manipulator, or just focus in on one thing and stop trying to spread myself into multiple characters? Or thoughts on that from either of you?
Do you want to take that first, Michael?
Sure. First of all, who are you? And you have to be quite spontaneous. For me to find the truth in anything, there's a spontaneity, a not thinking, a not being in one's head. I'm just like that. I'm black and white, very much black and white, all about marketing, and shades of gray as well. So I consciously have to shut my mind off. I do it through meditation or whatever, and just go for my heart. So who is Kip? Who is Kip? What feels right? And I guarantee you, if you don't think too much, the agents, if you want agents or if you have agents already, they'll be knocking down your door. They'll even, you'll get that agricultural fair or that mall show or whatever. I had agents booking me when I was not in tights, but in that Robin Hood outfit for corporate events. And ordinarily I'd be scared, fill in the blank. If I wasn't dressed up in my suit and tie. I'm Mr. Suit Guy as well. But no, they thought I was a novelty. They recognized that people would appreciate that. But more than that, I was being authentic. And if you're being who you are, that will be reflected on the outside. Don't worry. Oh, I've had 2 books held up for so long because I'm thinking too much. What market do I want to go to? If I say this will be wrong. Well, so now there's 2 books that really need to be written that I'm not writing because I'm doing this. I'm in my head too much. So go from your heart without fear. Fear. I watched The Blacklist last night. I don't know if anybody watches that or cares about that show, but it was something.
No spoilers. I'll watch it.
Okay.
Don't spoil it.
Reddington, though, this I can say, he does, he says something for a friend who's passed away. And I thought, yes, I want to be like that person. I want to be fearless. I want to fear nothing. The only reason why we have fear is the longer we live, we have life experiences, and something tells us don't go down that road. But what if you do? What if you don't think? What if we attain that freedom in our hearts and our minds that children still have? Yeah, so they fall, they scrape their knee, whatever. I guarantee you, Kip, nothing bad's going to happen if you go from your heart. I guarantee you that.
I think a lot in mine, there are so many factions of magic that I enjoy. Some I don't, but many of them I do. And not all of them fit Kip Sherry. You know, the charitable cheat, the con artist guy, that's not Kip Sherry. But I guess I see myself more as an actor playing the role of a magician. And much like an actor, as I go from movie to movie, my character that I play in this movie is different than the last one and the next one. And so the characters are fully developed. And when I'm in that character, I'm 100% there. But I see myself changing the character to fit the style of magic that I want that character to perform. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I think as you've asked my views, firstly, I never give advice. I have conversations. I hold up a sign. You know, well, what advice can I give anybody? I can't. I don't live in that person's mind, or as Michael says, heart. Yes, but I can kind of point to the pathway, so to speak. Yes, the characters, as Michael was rightly saying, you have to. I mean, you know, if you've been up, and Paul Abbey will tell us this. If you've been up to New York or you studied, I mean, he was on one of the shows, and we had a wonderful conversation. Bob Fitch, you know, if you don't know who that is in magic, well, I suggest you find out. Many of us know who that gentleman is, and you know, the Lee Strasberg in New York, and all this great method acting and things. All of that is relevant. Sometimes a gig will come up where you have to actually create a character. I have one where it came about by accident. My very good buddy, I'm going to have him on the show at some stage, J. Scott Berry, called me up and he said, my son, he said, I'd like you to come up to Scotland and we're doing this, this, and this, and it's the whole Falkland thing of the weekend. And I went, oh, wow, great. He said, no, you don't get it. I want you to create a character. I went, okay. Where's Kip? Has he disappeared? I don't see him.
He's there.
Oh, he's still here. Oh, you moved on the screen. Sorry. So, long story, real short. We went off, and I came back, and I said, "Oh, I've got this from Deep Space Nine. I will be a Mimbari sorcerer, whatever." And he said, "Yeah, cool. I love it." If you know anything about J. Scott Berry, you will understand. Magnificent. I mean, I love that guy. Really do. So then, out of the blue, somewhere, as Michael was saying, I sat there, and the character wasn't comfortable. Could I play it if I was in a movie and someone gave me a script and said, these are your scenes, these are your lines? The short answer is, yes, I could. But I had to come up and be my own producer, my own director, my own character creator, all these things, which very often we all have to do. Anyway, and out of nowhere, Zadok was born. In Hebrew, it's pronounced Zedok, spelled Z-A-D-O-K. Yes? And the byline came to me, and he speaks in a strange Sumerian accent, you know, with the makeup and the cloak and everything else. And it's, greetings, I am Zadok, keeper of seal of ancient Magi. You understand what my bad English. And, you know, this is how the character develops. And in the end, you get somebody to do something and you go, hey, gee, Susan, that was really nice. Can you speak to them in a regular voice? Because they've been following this character. You know, it's live on the stage. And it just cracks the audience up. But in the meantime, he's doing things like, look, we sit by fire and the log and smoke and the thing begin to rise. And, you know, all it is a friggin' voodoo doll on my hand, you know, but I'm selling it in this crazy accent and, you know, do this and whatever. Because, as you rightly said, Kip, very often the quote by Jean-Robert Houdin is misquoted. He never actually said the magician is an actor playing the part of magician or an actor playing whatever the quote is that's misquoted. I urge you to look up the full one. he uses the word conjurer, which has an entirely different meaning in French. And that, if the whole quote is studied, you go, ah, got it. Now I've got it. What do I do with it? Yes. Now, Brett Saul, I don't know if he's still around. I don't see him, but Brett was here, and another good buddy of ours, Mark Williams, who does all our editing, and we'll be doing this one. In fact, I mean,
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Brett. I mean, we stayed up wee hours with Rod when Rod was doing his exam. We can tell people now, Rod, but when Rod was on the gala show, nobody knew. I knew, and only Rod knew. That was his exam. They were actually watching him on the gala show. Guess what? This guy called Murphy turned up, and he brought his law with him. Because just poor Rod started. God, my heart sank for him. His internet went boom. That was it. Gone. Oh, shit. He did the freaking exam. Nobody else knew. So, being the director, producer on the show, we juggled it, whatever, brought somebody in. And, nobody knew that happened. And we brought Rod back in, just calmed down. And before that, we sat and Rod was going, and then, isn't that right, Rod? We just kind of slowed you totally down. Do you remember?
We did, yeah, during the rehearsal and everything.
Yeah, we just slowed you totally down. I said, no, lose that. And then Rod was talking about something else and said, well, we don't need that. We don't need the reels, and we don't need, how about if you do it like this, and how about if we do it like that?
We were so meticulous on that show. We got to the point of looking at his background and covering up is like a light socket or something with the logo.
Yeah.
We wanted it to be clean.
We went through that. There's the three of us, and then I had the Friday, I think, before the show, if I remember rightly, Rod. We sat up and we were going, this last bit. And then he said, and Rod was literally going out, a shot, coming back. What about that jacket? And I'm going, not for that character. Then he'd come back wearing another jacket. And I went, yeah. Then he'd come back. And I go, what about that jacket with this bow tie? And literally, I'm not kidding. He's sitting right here. I'm not making this up, right, Rod?
True,
That's
no.
what happened. Rod went back. Said, yeah, that's it. We've got it. And this is what we all sometimes don't pay attention to. You didn't pay $23 million for a movie, but guess what? You still have a director. A lot of us go out there and think, well, we don't. No, you don't. I have two directors. One is my buddy Mark Williams, who does all the editing in Vegas, and the other one is my son. And my son is Keith Churcher, who's here, bless his heart. He's met my son and seen him perform. And my son will look at me and go, yeah, nah, Dad.
And Anthony, since you brought up Mark's name in Vegas, the editing on that show that Rod was on with the technical glitches, if you go back and watch that show, you'll never see those glitches.
Oh, no, Mark is
cleaned
that
it up.
good. Yeah, Mark is not only a brilliant editor, he's actually a magician. And anybody who's anybody in Vegas knows him. He's not like up there in the limelight. You go talk to, Penn Jillette, or Lance is not there anymore. He's gone to Kentucky. Or anybody like that. They go, oh, yeah. Because Mark's there with him. He's a very kind of low key, great guy. And it's this giving. I don't know if you know, but if you're taking an hour or a 2-hour show, I'll watch it after Joel sends me the recording. I'll sit at the Mark. He'll sit there. He'll work on it for days and days. And you know what? Nobody gets paid a penny. That's the giving. That's the giving. And that's what it's all about. And God, it's going to sound like a cliche.
Yeah, well, thank you, Anthony.
Ever since I was yay high.
Anthony, yeah.
I was taught in my family. It comes back to you, man. If it doesn't come back to you, it comes back to your children or your children's children. It comes back. Always comes back.
Certainly, Anthony, I have to give you credit for that because it made a huge difference. And you being AIMC, you knew what the judges were looking for, and you really tightened up the act and put it to the form that I felt proud of performing it actually that day.
Yeah.
And I kept the changes that you've actually put into the act. So really appreciate that.
And Brett's and Mark's help before that. Yeah.
Brett was there and Mark was there too. So their help as well, their input also.
Joel has put up in the chat. He's put up, if you go up the chat, Joel has put the link to the SAM showcase. Okay. And on the showcase, there are all the Darkstone dossiers with Jeff McBride, Kevin James, super names. Sean Farquhar. These guys have been, they're all buddies. I know them. I just ask them to come on a show, and we then plan it and work out what we're going to do and everything. We don't just switch on a camera and talk.
Anthony, if you're asking Joe to post something, he's actually left the room. He had to go.
Yeah, I know. I noticed he's got to run, and I know where he's got to run to too. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, guys, we got about 10 more minutes left of the open.
Yeah, and that's
house
it.
here.
And then we gotta wrap. But you know what? If ever anybody that's left here wants to get back, particularly like Kip, and just have a sit down, pour yourself a drink, chit chat like we're doing now. I'm open. I'm sure Rod is. I'm sure Michael is. I'm sure Paul Abbey is. Anybody that just wants to get together, man, we could put up a little thing and just shoot the breeze, to use an old expression, yeah, and then just chit chat. There's one gentleman who's not said a word, my lovely, 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 wonderful friend Keith Churcher, who, he's just an amazing guy. I tell you, his life is just unbelievable. I told you before, and I'll tell you again before we go. The Magic Circle Theater was full when they did a tribute honor to him, and all the people that Keith just gave and gave and gave to when he was running things for young magicians. And then when the Magic Circle sort of took it over, became the Young Magician or some such thing. But anyway, they took it over. But for years and years,
But you had Mark Paul on, didn't you?
Indeed, I had Mark Paul as a guest here, and Mark was one of your guys.
He was, but he only ever came second.
He only ever came second. Yes.
Well,
my son was as well.
Yeah. Yep.
He got the trophy, the John Hart Trophy. It was just absolute kindness and giving. And there are names only perhaps one or two folks here from England would know, like Paul. There was Bob Hayden, Ian Adair. Great people. Bobby Bernard,
Alan Jackson,
Alan Jackson, all these guys.
Yeah. All the big names.
Every one of them came and gave. Years later, I ran into Bobby, and I think he was not very well. He was actually in a wheelchair at the time. And the first thing he said to me was not "Hello, how are you?" He turns to me and he goes, "How's that wonderful son of yours?" I mean, wow. And if you knew this gentleman, may his memory be a blessing. If you knew this gentleman, he didn't mince words. And let's just say he could teach a sailor a few choice phrases. Shall we say that? Correct, Keith? Yeah. Bobby could swear like a sailor and a trooper at the same time.
Yep.
He knew stuff. And he just went. I remember him coming up to Charles and he went, "That's good. That's a Las Vegas act." And you know what? In 2 years' time, he opened for Steve Daiquiri at the Orleans. Yeah, so this is the giving. It's what it's all about. I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, I don't know if you want to emphasize it, Paul or Michael, but leave it to you guys.
It's putting it back in the kitty, isn't it, for the future generation?
Yes, it absolutely is.
Oh yeah, Bobby never minced his words. That's for sure.
No, sir. No, sir. No. And he knew a lot of choice Anglo-Saxon words too, shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you learned a lot. You learned a lot from great guys like that. Well, I think we're probably, if nobody's got any questions for Michael or anything they want to address, I think we maybe want to wrap this up a little bit. So,
Anthony, when's your next show and who's going to be on it? Do you know yet?
Oh, thank you, Brett. Yes, I do know. On the 27th of February, same time, on the Darkstone Dossiers, we have Suzanne the Magician. And if you head over tomorrow to, I've had long chats with her. My God, what an amazing lady. You wouldn't believe. Wait till you hear some of the things she's going to tell you on the show. Inspirational. She's on tomorrow as a guest with, I think I mentioned already, Greg Wilson, etc. At the HAOM. Register. Trust me, you won't go wrong. Just see great people there like Gene Proter, Scott Well. I mean, just unbelievably great people, right? Again, very, very giving, very, very giving. I mean, I have stories like friggin' storm was coming down, a hurricane or whatever, and Gene said, "Okay, we're gonna get you in a car." He drove me up. It's like being a spy movie. He took me to some place in a parking lot, PJs with another car. They throw all my stuff in it to get me up to Houston because I had to do a talk show with Walter Blaney. This is the caring. This is the caring. And then everything went by, and Gene and his wife Betty drove. Well, we come up. They come to the Yeah, the TAOM. And then he drives me back and, says, hey, hang out with us. So, I become his house guest. This is this is what it's about, I think. And I kind of feel sad for some of the younger guys who don't get this. They don't get it. It's like, look at me on YouTube. Here I am in my kitchen with my T-shirt and, jeans torn at the knees, and I'm just being clever. And, it's not magic. You're not entertaining anybody. Sorry. It works for David Blaine. Because Bill Kalush sat with David Blaine and they worked out the character before he even went on Conan O'Brien's show and did the ambitious card. This is what people don't get. But hey, I'm not here to preach, man. I don't know everything. Okay. Well, what do you reckon? Leave the last word, I think, to anybody else who wants it, because I think we got to pretty much shut everything down. I love these sessions. I love these sessions. Thanks for showing up, Christopher. It's great. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it?
I'm sorry I've had to turn my camera off most of it.
Oh, that's all right. Not a problem. Not a problem. Not a problem.
Process. But
Yeah, you and I. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you for coming. We'll have a chat. We'll bring you in. We'll bring you into the SEM and all the other guys in the magic room as well.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Great evening. Thank you, Dr. Michael.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, Dr. Michael,
Good
for
night,
coming
everybody.
in. Great lecture.
Thank
Great
you.
chat.
Thank you so much.
So what are you going to do, Brett? You're going to take this and keep the recording and everything else? Because
I will shut this thing down here in just a second.
Yes, sir. Okay, you're the co-host, so you do your things. Well, great to see everybody, and thank you so much again for everything and all your kind words. And thank you so much, Michael. Much appreciated.
Thank you
very,
so
very
much.
quickly, very quickly. I must do this. Yeah, old age, man. Senior moment. Yeah, Suzanne 27th, and I believe it's the 13th, but I'll post it. Is one of the legendary card men of the time. People in England will know him. Lots of people will know him. Paul Gordon. He's going to be my guest.
Great.
Keith's just gone right. Right. Okay. Paul Gordon's going to be my Darkstone guest in the first, whatever the date is. I don't have it to hand, but I'll post it. It's in March.
Bring a pack of cards with you.
Don't miss that. It's going to be red hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only bring you the best, guys. I only bring you the best. Please go to the showcase link that Joel put up, most illustrious informer now, put up, and have a look. There's a lot of stuff in there. And when you get a chance, have a look at the Anthony Darkstone Magic Chronicles and other things. Tim Wise, who is our first VP on the SAM International Assembly, is also the CEO and head honcho of Abra.tv. And if you go there, on channel 20, it's the SAM. Channel 14 is some guy I never heard of. You'll figure out who he is. And then you've also got BJW Jewelry, which is Harriet and Gay Blackstone and Robbie Wilmot, who's Phil Wilmot's wife. Yeah, there's Harriet going like that. I met Harriet years and years ago. I can't remember which convention, and you had all these lovely bits of jewelry, which I love. Anyway, so it's Harriet and Harriet's BJW company with Robbie Wilmot, Gay Blackstone, and Harriet. They also sponsor Abra News. It's all been posted. Don't take a look. It doesn't cost you a dime. Go and have a look.
Hey, folks, I think that's our time. Let's wrap it up. Again,
yes, sir.
Anthony, thank you. Dr. Michael,
thank you, Brett.
You, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Everyone, thank you for attending, and we'll see you on the next one.
You bet.
Good night.
Thanks. Have a great Sunday. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.